Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, Hungary. All right, good to see so many students joining in. Today we are doing a special reading strategy. This was scheduled to be a members chat only class, but I decided to open it up for everybody because it's a very interesting and important class, and I have an important announcement for everyone. Hi Abid, hi Unknown Boy, hi Arafat, hi Preeti, good to see a member in there. I will be paying special attention to you members today, so don't worry. All right, materials are coming from our websites as usual, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. And we have a new feature on our websites where you can find a speaking partner on our website, and you can do a face-to-face chat like Skype or like WhatsApp. So that is now available on the websites. And as a promotion for that, we are offering a special discount code. So Partner 30 will give you a 30% discount on our website. I'll show you, ladies and gentlemen, how that looks as we get into today's live IELTS lesson. So when you go to our websites, and let me just jump there, here we go. Then here in the website, you log in at the top, click on that My Student account, and then when you are in your My Student account, and you can try this for free, so you can sign up in the demo course for free. When you're in the My Student account, you have lots of goodies. You have 6 full practice tests, you have over 100 hours of video lessons, an interactive course, and you have these 2 buttons here. You have student partner speaking and speaking interview practice. So if you click on that student partner speaking, then up pops this window which says fair usage. So you have to, of course, use this service with respect towards each other. It's a free service. Okay, it's absolutely free when you're talking to other students. So you have to accept this policy that you're not going to harass other people, you're not going to cause damage or harm to others. So you accept that policy, and in a new window will pop up the interface for you. So you will have a interface like this. Right now we can see that Jignesh Kumar is on here waiting to speak with someone, and you can talk with Jignesh Kumar here by phone or by video, okay? So that is a service for all of you. I know it's a little bit bright, so maybe I'll make it a little bit darker so you can see it more clearly, okay? All right, so live speaking practice, face-to-face chat with video or just audio, just like Skype or WhatsApp, directly through our website. You can see somebody else just joined in, and now they're probably going to hook up and start practicing their IELTS speaking together. So you have that service on your academic IELTS website in your My Student account. Again, when you go to your My Student account, you will find it here, okay? It's this blue button, Student Partner Speaking, and then the same for General IELTS. So if you're in your General IELTS demo or full account, so if you're in your free or paid account, you just simply log in your General IELTS, and you will find your speaking partner by clicking this in the General IELTS green button. So one more time for those of you who missed it, we have a special promotion for this new addition to our websites. Partner 30, so Partner 30, you get a 30% discount when you join our premium courses, okay? So a lot of students were asking for this kind of speaking partners for the IELTS, and so now you have it on our websites, okay? You can find a speaking partner, and you can practice with video, or you can practice with only audio if you're more comfortable that way. Okay, So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions about our courses, our products, about IELTS, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Today we're doing reading. We're focusing on matching people. It will be kind of a special class today. Then here is our schedule. I'll just slowly scroll through. All the way, we have our schedule all the way until January the 3rd. Okay, I will also post the schedule in the YouTube community on our channel. So you'll be able to see the schedule in the community posts on the channel. Today we're going into some reading and reading strategy. For this, we're going to use our materials, and we're doing this kind of in a special way today, okay? So one of the students said, hey, Adrian, I have problems when you have to match people in the reading, okay? Now, we don't have a reading passage where you need to match people, but we have a listening where you have to match people, and this is a listening transcript. Meaning this is the script for the listening, which is a university lecture. So this listening transcript is exactly like an IELTS reading passage if you read it instead of listen to it, okay? And we have some questions where you have to match people to what they did. So let's look at those questions first. The questions are on page 125 in your second exam book. So this is what it looks like. And you have this kind of matching people to information about the people in listening and in reading. Okay, so in IELTS listening, you can have this kind of question where you have to listen and match people to what they did. Or you can have this in your reading, where you have to read the passage and match people to what they did. So I will explain how you can do that very effectively, and so you get a high band score and get these marks correct. Hi, Marwa. Good to see you in class. All right, so here, the question says, choose your answers from the box and write the letters A to D next to questions 34 to 37. You may use any letter more than once. Okay, and then here you have the people. So here you have Galileo, Newton, Descartes and Leibniz, and Einstein. And you should read this question before you read the passage, okay? So here's my first tip to you. So tip number 1, read matching people to information questions before you read the passage. Okay, that's your number 1 tip, because this will help you to know more about the passage. So let's do that now. Okay, let's read this together. So number 34, believed that planets moved in an ether. So believed that planets moved in an ether. Number 35, developed a theory which was thought to replace the earlier theory of gravity. Number 36, in the experiment of the mind, tells us the billiard ball is smooth. 37, careful, pay attention to these words, used not mirrors, but lenses in the construction of the telescope. Okay, good. So we read these. If you don't understand all of the questions, that's absolutely okay. Hi, Eugene. Good to see you in class. Joshi's asking, what's the difference between IELTS Academic and General for permanent residency? The reading and the writing sections are different, Joshi. The listening is the same, and this kind of question, students, can be the same in General and in Academic. You could see this type of question in either Academic or general. Okay, so we read these statements. All of this information is in the passage. So now we can do the reading, okay? So let's read the passage together and focus on the information. Now, before we do that, a couple more important tips about what you need to do when you have this question, okay? So, here's a couple of important points. When you have to match people, so this is tip number 2, when you match people, they usually come in chronological order in the passage, okay? Does anybody know what chronological order means? So what does chronological order mean? Anybody know the meaning of chronological? Chronos, logic, meaning organized or systematic. Chronos meaning, or chrono meaning time, right? So chronological means time order. Okay, so usually the IELTS is quite organized this way. So they will talk about the earliest person first, then the person who came later, then the person who came after that, okay? So there's going to be kind of a, let's say, for example, 1800s, 1850s, the mid-1900s, 21st century, okay? So there will be some order time-wise to the people, okay? So that's another tip when you're matching people with information, okay? So for those students who are joining in, remember this is matching information with people. All right, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is create visual cues for the people you read about. Or another way I can say this is make up visual associations. Okay? So for example, if you're reading about Mr. Smith, then Mr. Smith is maybe building a lock or has a face that looks like a lock or key. Okay, so that sounds kind of strange to you, I guess. You're like, what is Adrian talking about? Hi Parth, hi Naveen, hi Rekha, hi Parth. Yes, this is an open to everybody class, members. Don't be surprised. I will have a members only class later, okay? So Smith, I'm not sure if all of you know this, maybe some of you do, but Smith is actually a word in English, okay? A smith in English means a person who builds something, okay? So a goldsmith or fixes or makes objects, so kind of like a mechanic of sorts. A goldsmith is somebody who works with gold, okay? A locksmith is somebody who opens locks or builds locks or creates or makes keys for locks. So that's a locksmith, okay? So there's different kinds of smiths. A person who makes swords or weapons, knives, that's called a blacksmith, okay? A blacksmith. So if you're reading about Professor Smith, then you can imagine that Professor Smith has this giant face that's shaped like a key and a keyhole, okay? So maybe you can imagine that Mr. Smith looks like this, okay? This is Mr. Smith here. Mr. Smith has a giant keyhole for a nose. So when you create visual pictures and then when you're reading the information and you're connecting that information to Mr. Smith's face, then you're going to remember that much better, okay? When you get to the actual question part of the reading. All right, so create those visual images. And I will show you how to do that while we read. So let's get to that reading. Okay. So here we go. Read with me nice and loud, students, okay? So I want you to read with me aloud. Hopefully you're in a place where you can use your loud voice. Practice reading. I will read at a nice, comfortable, fluid pace, okay? So we're paying attention to the people in this article and what they did, their achievements, okay? Today, we are going to discuss the life and achievements of the famous English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Many consider Newton to be the most brilliant man to have ever lived, and many consider his achievements the greatest ever achieved by one man. Newton himself was not sure, as he famously told his followers, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." While it may be true that he built upon the foundation of scientists before him, he still managed to see further than anyone else had. And to this day, his accomplishments stand the test of time. Isaac Newton was born in England in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from age 12 to 13. After leaving school, his mother tried to make him into a farmer, but that was not going to be sufficient for young Isaac. A year later, in 1661, on the recommendation of his teacher at the King's School in Grantham, Newton was admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he eventually became a teacher 6 years later. Newton is perhaps most famous for his work on gravity. So right away, you're connecting gravity to Newton. A well-known story says that Newton realized the nature of gravity while he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head. Okay, so let's stop here for 1 second. So how should I visualize Newton's head? What am I connecting information to from this point on? So everything that I read about Newton from here on out, what is a good way to visualize Sir Isaac Newton? What is a good way to picture him? What can I connect the information to? His science and his achievements. And I bet a few of you are going to get a good answer here. Baljeet, a teacher, not so much, because a teacher is not a visual object. You should try to imagine something that's visual. Murasa says, imagine a tree or a person sitting under it. It's too complicated, Murasa. Keep it more simple. Naveen says, imagine apple falling. It's still too complicated. Omon Sharapov says, an apple. Imagine Newton as an apple. Yeah, absolutely. So what you want to do here is imagine that Mr. Isaac Newton, or I should say Sir Isaac Newton, is an apple head. Okay? So from here on out, Sir Isaac Newton has a head that's like an apple. Okay? And everything you read about him is connected to this head of an apple, all right? He is the apple, all right? So think about Sir Isaac Newton as an apple, okay? All right. Now, this story let's continue from here. This story may or may not be true, but the underlying principle is valuable. Newton made the astonishing discovery that the same force that makes an apple fall to the earth also makes the earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the earth. Until this time, scientists such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz had believed that the planets moved in some sort of matter, something they called an ether. Okay, so here we were just joined by two other friendly fellows, René Descartes, and Gottfried Leibniz. Okay, so now we have some information about these two. What can we picture their heads as? So here is Sir Isaac Newton as an apple. Okay, so this is Newton. And just bear with me, you think I'm crazy, but this actually works very well. I'm not the one who's making this up. This is actually what's called a mnemonic memory device. And very famous psychologists and scientists who are experts in helping people with their memory teach this technique to people. It's very important in business when you're networking to remember the names of important colleagues or important partners that you meet. And memory experts will always say, try to connect them with something that you see on them and with some object, okay, just like what we're doing here with the apple. So Oman Sharpov says, well, let's connect these two new guys with what we just learned about them, the planets, or the moon, right? So we have Newton as the apple. We can have Descartes maybe as Saturn, okay? So the ring of Saturn. So that's Mr. Descartes. And then maybe you have Leibniz as the moon, okay? So he's got a little bit of a crater face like that. All right, so he is the moon, all right? So now you've connected Leibniz, you visualize him as the moon, Descartes as the planet Saturn, and Newton as this apple. And everything that you are reading now about these individuals, you're connecting to these visual images. This is also helping to remind you that you need to visualize when you read. Okay? It helps you structure, organize information in your mind and understand the text much, much better. Okay? So we connect that these two here believed that these planets moved in an ether. Ether is some kind of liquid, some kind of matter, some kind of substance. Okay, let's keep reading. Newton demonstrated that no such ether was required. Descartes and Leibniz also had little explanation for why apples fall to the earth. Newton accounted for this almost perfectly. Okay, let's keep going. During the 20th century, Newton's theory came under, 20th century, notice what I said, okay? So Isaac Newton was 1600, same with Descartes and Leibniz, they're in these earlier times. And now we're jumping ahead to the 1900s, okay? So 1900s is the 20th century. So from 1900s to 2000s is 20th century. Newton's theory came under attack by the German physicist Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity was said to replace Newton's theory of gravitation. Okay, let's keep reading. This is simply not true. Einstein's theory is a landmark achievement in science, but it did not replace Newton's theory. It merely improved it. To picture this, think of a smooth ball, perhaps a billiard ball. In this experiment of the mind, Newton tells us the ball is smooth. Okay? So again, I'm thinking of that applehead Newton, right? And now I'm picturing this billiard ball that's very smooth and shiny. Okay, billiards. Everybody knows the game billiards, right? Okay, however, Einstein says the ball has small imperfections, dents, cuts, and scrapes. Who is right? The answer is both of them. Newton is correct on a macroscopic scale. When we look at the ball from a distance, the ball is smooth. However, Einstein is correct as well. The ball does have imperfections. He is correct on a macroscopic and microscopic scale. Okay, more importantly, students, how should we picture Einstein? So what would be a good way? And, I realize we're talking about some famous people here, so some of you might even see their faces. Einstein especially has some very famous photographs, so you can see his face. But not all IELTS passages will have famous people like this. They'll have the names of professors or people that you're not familiar with. So what would be a good way to visualize or to picture Mr. Einstein in this case if I'm reading about him? So Marasa says, like a ball. Be a little bit more specific. Yeah, very good. Amara Zahid coming up with the brilliant answer that I'm looking for. She says, picture Einstein like a rough ball, not having smoothness. Yeah, absolutely. So you picture Einstein as this kind of imperfect billiard ball, okay, that's got kind of these scrapes and cuts. I'm sorry, Mr. Einstein. I'm sure you're rolling in your grave that I just drew you as this ugly billiard ball. My apologies, but this is for learning purposes, and I'm sure Einstein would appreciate that. So he is this imperfect kind of strange-looking billiard ball with scrapes and dents, okay? So this is Einstein. And Newton, of course, is this shiny, smooth apple, okay? And he's probably very happy right now in the afterlife that he's being drawn as this healthy, smooth apple compared to Mr. Einstein. But again, spirits of those brilliant men, this is just for learning, so appreciate it. All right, so let's keep going. So we've got all of our imagery now for the people mentioned in the question. Now we're just connecting information as we read to the images that we've created in the mind, okay? Let's keep going. Another of Newton's important achievements, so again, thinking of the apple, is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. Sorry, my correction, we have one more fun person to visualize here. Galileo, Mr. Galileo. How should we see Galileo? So what should Galileo look like? We should picture him right away. As soon as we read this first sentence, we should visualize and picture Galileo. How should we see Galileo? Okay. Sakira says, Galileo is a mirror. No, not as a mirror. Careful. Make sure you're focusing, Sakita, on the information. It says... Galileo used lenses, not mirrors. He used lenses, okay? So Vishit Hegde says, we should see Galileo as a telescope. Absolutely, Vishit. I agree with you. That would be the best. So let's visualize Mr. Galileo as a telescope. So Galileo himself is this telescope with this nice big lens on the end of it. Here's Mr. Galileo. Okay, he's on a tripod, standing steady there. There we go. Has that little end. Okay, and this is Galileo. All right, so we have the Applehead Newton, we have Galileo the telescope, we have Einstein the rough billiard ball, we have Leibniz the moon, and we have Descartes the planet Saturn. And we're connecting information to these people. We've already connected lots of information to Mr. Newton, who is the apple. All right, let's keep rocking and rolling with the information here. Okay, so from this paragraph, another of Newton's important achievements is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. So I'm connecting this mirrors with the apple. Today's telescopes are almost all made of mirrors as opposed to lenses, which again speaks to Newton's brilliance. There are a number of reasons the mirror is an improvement over the lens in telescopes. First, mirrors do not warp as easily as lenses do, and by that I mean that lenses can lose their shape in hot or cold weather quite easily. Second, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their shorter focal distance. Third, telescopes with mirrors can be built far larger because the mirrors themselves can be built larger. An achievement of Newton's that must not be overlooked is Newton's discovery of calculus. Okay, so again, I have that apple in mind, right? So here's that apple, okay? Now I'm connecting calculus, so some irrational numbers like pi or e, okay, to the apple, all right? Although the discovery was not without controversy, Gottfried Leibniz also claims to have invented calculus at approximately the same time. Oh, there's Mr. Moonhead, right? So let's not forget about Mr. Moonhead Leibniz with the craters, okay? And he's also claiming to have invented calculus, okay? Nobody really knows the truth, but it is accepted that they discovered it separately. In any case, it was a brilliant achievement by both scientists. Newton died in March 1727, and his body was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey in London in a famous above-ground tomb. He was 84. Okay, so that is the end of the reading. In this case, it's a listening transcript, but like I said, this could easily be a reading passage instead of a listening. Let's go and answer those questions now that we've made these connections. Here we go. So let's go back to that question sheet. And let's answer these together. And you'll see how easy, quote unquote, this will be now that we've used all this visualization. So here we go. A is Galileo, B is Newton, C is Descartes and Leibniz, and D is Einstein. And notice how this is almost chronological order. So Galileo lived the latest or earliest, I should say. Galileo lived before all these guys did. Then Newton, Descartes, and Descartes lived around the same time as Galileo. Newton and Leibniz roughly in the same time as well. And Einstein lived later on. So as best as can be, it's chronological order. Okay, so number 34, believed that planets moved in an ether. Who is it? Galileo, Newton, Descartes, and Leibniz. Well, we visualize these people very clearly. So this should be fairly simple for us. Vishit, Roshni, Marasa, you're all saying, yeah, that's got to be C. And C it is. Okay. And then here we go. Developed a theory which was thought to replace the earlier theory of gravity. So who do we think, for number 35, developed a theory that was maybe a replacement for the theory of gravity? Now, we connected that with two people, with the apple and with the rough billiard ball, right? So if we're visualizing well here, then you will know the answer is D. That's right. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant, Amara, because it cannot be E, since there is no E. So it has to be D, not E. You're thinking E because Einstein's name starts with an E. But that has to be D, right? So Einstein made a theory, the theory of relativity, which people thought replaced Newton's theory of gravity. Okay? All right. In the experiment of the mind tells us that the billiard ball is smooth. So who is the smooth billiard ball? Who is the smooth billiard ball? Number 36. So we should remember that the billiard is connected to Einstein and connected to Newton. Which one was the rough billiard ball? That was Einstein. The smooth billiard ball was Newton. So we know the answer here is B, because the smooth billiard ball was Newton. Remember, Einstein, we visualized, we pictured him as the rough billiard ball. Okay? So number 37, last question for this matching people to information. Used not mirrors, but lenses. Be very careful with negatives. Used not mirrors, but lenses in the construction of the telescope. Hey, who was Mr. Telescope Head? For the last one, for number 37. Mr. Telescope Head was Galileo. That was A. Absolutely. So now you're thinking, wow, that was really easy. No problems there. So the answers are C, D, B, and A. Yeah, absolutely. But again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, that looks easy because I was here guiding you the whole way. You need to practice that at home, okay? It's really important to practice and master that strategy where you're visualizing people you read about, you create an object image to connect their faces with, and then connect the information to that object which you are then reading about, okay? So that will make it much, much easier. Okay, practice it, and this will be a very effective strategy for you, not just for the IELTS, ladies and gentlemen, but for those of you who are businessmen and businesswomen, when you're networking and you are meeting new people. Yeah, don't tell them, hey, I just pictured you as an apple head. So maybe don't say that to them, but absolutely use this kind of mnemonic device to help navigate your social life, your social connections, and surprise people that you meet them, a month or 2 months later, and you'll say, hey, I remember your name is Sandesh. Yeah, it was good meeting you at that convention the other month, right? And Sandesh will be like, how did that guy remember my name? He only saw me for 2 minutes, and we shook hands and said goodbye. But that's right, Sandesh, because I just pictured you as the sandy dunes of India or something like that, okay? So that I connected with Sandesh. All right. Okay, so now we'll do something interesting here, ladies and gentlemen. Hang in there. We're going to do something fun. We're going to actually do the rest of these questions together in the form of listening. So for those of you who are following this lesson from the beginning, this is a really cool way to practice your reading and listening skills together, and it's a very effective use of study time to maximize your learning. So what did we do? I'm going to make some notes for you here. So this is a powerful study technique, okay? Okay, so the first step that we took is read the transcript, visualize, and solve one set of questions. Then number 2 is listen and solve the remaining questions. And continue to visualize as you listen. Okay, so this is why, members, I decided to share this class with everybody, even though I know you're used to having just members chat classes on Saturday, because this is a very powerful study technique, and I wanted everybody to be able to interact with this information, okay? All right, so let's do that. Let's do some listening, and we will answer these questions together. So I'm going to pop back here. And this is test 2. The questions start here. Okay. This is coming out of our test book 1, and it's test number 3. And you will find the audio for this on our websites, both on general and on academic. So here are the audio CDs. And it's CD 3, audio track 4. Everybody please get a pencil and a paper ready. Write down your answers on the paper. Please do not write them into the chat. Give everybody a fair chance to answer. We'll go through the answer key together after to make sure that you got them correct, okay? I have the volume maximum on my end, so make sure to turn up the volume on your end, okay? So make sure to turn up the volume on your end. If it's too quiet, try to use a headset, all right? So just give me a moment here, and I'm going to start up the audio for everyone. Here we go.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about English scientist Isaac Newton. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we are going to discuss the life and achievements of the famous English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Many consider Newton to be the most brilliant man to have ever lived, and many consider his achievements the greatest ever achieved by one man. Newton himself was not so sure, as he famously told his followers, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." While it may be true that he built upon the foundation of scientists before him, he still managed to see further than anyone else had, and to this day his accomplishments stand the test of time. Isaac Newton was born in England in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from age 12 to 17. After leaving school, his mother tried to make him into a farmer, but that was not going to be sufficient for young Isaac. A year later, in 1661, on the recommendation of one of his teachers at the King's School in Grantham, Newton was admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he eventually became a teacher 6 years later. Newton is perhaps most famous for his work on gravity. A well-known story says that Newton realized the nature of gravity while he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head. This story may or may not be true, but the underlying principle is valuable. Newton made the astonishing discovery that the same force that makes an apple fall to the earth also makes the earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the earth. Until this time, scientists such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz had believed that the planets moved in some sort of matter, something they called an ether. Newton demonstrated that no such ether was required. Descartes and Leibniz also had little explanation for why apples fall to the earth. Newton's theory accounted for this almost perfectly. During the 20th century, Newton's theory came under attack by the German physicist Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity was said to replace Newton's theory of gravitation. This is simply not true. Einstein's theory is a landmark achievement in science, but it did not replace Newton's theory, it merely improved it. To picture this, think of a smooth ball, perhaps a billiard ball. In this experiment of the mind, Newton tells us that the ball is smooth. However, Einstein says that the ball has small imperfections, dents, cuts, and scrapes. Who is right? The answer is both of them. Newton is correct on a macroscopic scale. When we look at the ball from a distance, the ball is smooth. However, Einstein is correct as well. The ball does have imperfections. He is correct on a macroscopic and a microscopic scale. Another of Newton's important achievements is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. Today's telescopes are almost all made of mirrors as opposed to lenses, which again speaks to Newton's brilliance. There are a number of reasons the mirror is an improvement over the lens in telescopes. First, mirrors do not warp as easily as lenses do, and by that I mean that lenses can lose their shape in hot or cold weather quite easily. Second, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their shorter focal distance. Third, telescopes with mirrors can be built far larger because the mirrors themselves can be built larger. An achievement of Newton's that must not be overlooked is Newton's discovery of calculus. Although the discovery was not without controversy, Gottfried Leibniz also claims to have invented calculus at approximately the same time. Nobody really knows the truth, but it is accepted that they discovered it separately. In any case, it was a brilliant achievement by both scientists. Newton died in March 1727, and his body was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey in London, in a famous above-ground tomb. He was 84.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that is a typical section 4 for both the academic and general IELTS. Let's go through the answers together. Okay, of course you know the answers to the second set of questions because we did that as a reading exercise. So let's do these ones together now, okay? Let's see how well you are paying attention and visualizing. Isaac Newton was born in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from the age of what? Okay, so the answer for 31 is 12 to 17. So in your box for 31, okay, in your answer sheet, just do 12, 17. You have the word to given, so don't write the word to because then you have 3 words and you might get it wrong. It's 2 words, okay? IELTS is also testing how well you can pay attention to instructions. Do not write the word to. Just write 12, 17, the numbers, not words, okay? The numbers. Don't write the words because if you make a spelling mistake, you will get it wrong. Spelling counts, okay? Spelling matters on the IELTS. All right. Let's keep going. So then he leaves school and his mother attempts to make him what? It was kind of a position. What did his mother attempt to make him into? Tasha Mughal says a farmer. Mom wanted Newton to be a farmer. Hey, Newton, you got an apple head. Why not take care of the apple orchard? Take care of those apple trees. Newton says, no, I think I can do more and tell you why that apple falls to the ground, Mom. So I'm not going to be a farmer. All right, so farmer is the correct answer. All lowercase letters is great. All uppercase, Naveen, is fine as well. Okay. 1661, on the recommendation of his teachers, he's admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge. 6 years after beginning, Newton becomes a what? What does Newton become instead of a farmer for number 33? He becomes a teacher. That's right. Yeah, he becomes a teacher. Very good. Thank you for appreciating my sense of humor, Amara. I got a chuckle out of you. I'm happy about that. Yeah, he becomes a teacher. Okay, instead of a farmer, he's a teacher. So I can't tell you how to grow apples, but I can tell you why it falls to the ground. Newton has exceeded us all. 1600s, ladies and gentlemen. We're jumping back nearly 400 years in time here. It's very impressive for a young man. Okay, here we remember answers. We've gone through these before, right? So it is C, developed the theory which thought to replace D, B, and A. This is just a review. If you missed the first part of the class, we did this part as a reading exercise, okay? As a reading exercise using the transcripts, so using the script, right? So C, D, B, and A are the correct answers there if you missed it. Okay, let's jump to this fill in the blanks about the telescopes. So telescopes with lenses cannot be built as large as telescopes with mirrors because large lenses tend to what? What happens to large lenses? And if some of you have studied some physics and science, you know that glass and mirrors are liquid. They seem solid, but they do flow and move very, very slowly. So Ruby says they tend to lose shape. Loose shape is a good answer. You'll get that. Not loose shape, Naveen. Careful with the double O. So just one O, Naveen. If you spell it with 2 O's, you'll get it wrong because That's loose shape, not lose shape, okay? So it's loose shape, or as one word, if you missed it, it's warp. They tend to warp, okay? Loose shape is okay. Warp is the exact answer, but you'll probably get the loose shape, okay? So you will get that correct. You'll get that correct as well. Just make sure to spell that correctly, all right? Okay, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their reduced. This was a paraphrase. Anybody remember what word they used instead of reduced? Jasveer, you have the right answer, but you spelled it wrong, so you'll get it wrong. So make sure you spell it correctly. Focal distance. Okay, and this word was paraphrased, so they used the synonym for this word. Anybody catch what the synonym was that they said in the audio, or the professor said instead of reduced? He didn't say reduced. He said something else. Patricio, thank you for answering that question. Yeah, the professor said shorter. Okay, so pay attention for that paraphrasing. So the professor says, because of their shorter focal distance. Okay, so not short, it was shorter, because it's a relative, shorter. But shorter focal distance, that's right. Okay, good. So focal distance is correct. Okay, very good. Excellent, good job. Okay, down to the last question. Question number 40. Fantastic. Good job, everyone, so far. Staying with me. Okay, number 40. Choose the correct letter A, B, or C, multiple choice. Which statement is true? So it's kind of a true or false question here. Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus together. Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately during the same time period. Or Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately while working at the same university. Okay? Is it A, B, or C? Sadesh is screaming B, 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 B. Sadesh, make sure you just put one B into the answer sheet, or you will get it wrong. But yeah, B is the correct answer. So when we visualize this, the article just said, hey, Leibniz is German, Newton is British, and 1600s, they're probably not hanging out at the same school, but be careful, make sure you know the answer. B is the correct answer. So ladies and gentlemen, that was brilliant. Okay, good job. Way to hang in there for the class. Hope that you learned a lot about how to answer matching people and how to effectively use the transcripts of the listening section, especially listening section part 4, as kind of a reading passage substitute, okay? Listening section 4 is very, very similar to a reading passage, especially for academic or for part 3 in general, that a professor is more or less reading to you that you have to listen to. So you can really be dynamic in the way that you use the transcripts and listening section 4 to improve not only your listening, but also your reading skills, all right? Now, the other big news for today that's important for you to keep in mind is we have our schedule for the rest of December, but even more importantly, you can now find speaking partners, okay? You can now find speaking partners on our website, and you can meet up with others. Just be careful when you're sharing any kind of personal information. I don't recommend sharing your phone number or address or something like that. But you can go to our website. And again, on our website, I'm logged into the My Student account here. Okay, so on our website, you'll find our fully interactive course, audio CDs, over 100 hours of video lessons, and now you'll also find these buttons here on the right. There's Task 1, Task 2, Help for Editing, and then there's also Student Partner Speaking Practice. You click that button, you have to accept our fair terms or fairness terms where you respect people that you're speaking to. And this service is free, ladies and gentlemen. You can use that for free, okay? So there you are. Right now, there's nobody else online, but usually there are students. As you saw in the beginning of class, there were a couple people online. So when you're joined up, you can match up, pair up, use a speaking section question, and then you will have options to click on video or audio chat. Oh, there's someone joining in right now. So we just had Kostiantin joining in, and then if we click here, then we can open that up and we can chat with Kostianin. I don't want to disturb Kostianin right now since they're not expecting a call from us. So if one of you wants to join in and speak with Kostiantin, you can do that. All right, and you can use that in your general or academic IELTS account. Ladies and gents, to get a 30% discount, we're promoting this new feature on our websites. Just use the discount code PARTNER30. Okay, so PARTNER30, you'll get 30% discount. Okay, you can create a demo user account or a premium user account, up to you. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. You were amazing and awesome today. You have brilliant minds. You just need to make sure you stimulate them, study hard, practice, don't give up, believe in yourself. I certainly believe in you. We have lots of great success stories every week, so you can be one of those success stories. Just keep up the good work. Bye for now, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I wish you a good night and sweet dreams if it's late in your country.